Hi, Microsoft Ignite. My name is Tim. I come from the CluedIn team, and I'm very excited today to talk you through operationalizing data governance and master data management aided by GenAI and CluedIn. I'm going to walk you through a very special customer of ours. I'm going to subtly give hints to them, see if you can figure out which company this is as we go along. So let's dive in. Let's talk about essentially the genesis of a great data foundation and why it's important for initiatives we're driving today in AI and data. Let's start with the fact that Microsoft have made it so easy for us all to be able to build our own custom large language models. I can imagine this is on the tip of the tongues of most engineers, most data experts, but definitely companies are looking into this from an enterprise perspective. Now, literally that first little button there on the home screen of Azure AI Studio gives you the hint that this is the tool that Microsoft wants you to use to be able to build your own custom AI assistants and also expose them via APIs as well. Now, of course, being Microsoft, we can connect and mount data from all different types of places to augment these large language models. Let's take OneLake as an example. It also supports ADLS Gen 2. Azure Blob Storage is also supported. But guess what? To get started, you can even drag and drop files and folders directly onto the Azure AI Studio as well. Once you've got it there, it's really easy to preview the data, but then start using it across the different Copilot environments. Here we have an example where we get this kind of one-to-many relationship in that we can mount data once and we can use it across lots of different large language models. And AI Studio gives this really important piece for data governance. And that comes in the form of attribution. Yes, that little red box there, that's actually all I need. That's the little hook we need to make sure we can always trace back where did this data came from? Where did it come from? What happened to on its journey to get to this point? That's pretty much how easy it is to build an Azure AI Studio large language model. Now, we're only a few minutes in, so chances are the story is not complete yet. And I think the reality is really not the dream that we're after. This is what it looks like using a custom large language model and still with our own data, employee data, customer data, all that critical data, if we don't have a good foundation of data in place. Let's start with some interesting questions. Now, in this case, we are using a copilot. In this case, it's CluedIn's own copilot. We have switched it over to use the new large language model hosted in Azure AI Studio, and it's been augmented with essentially our raw data. HR onboarding guides, and lists of employees, lists of customers. These are all the things that I would love if I was a business that wanted to onboard people really quickly. And I wanted a buddy there as a new employee to ask all these maybe tricky or silly questions. Let's take a simple example where we're asking for the contact details of a teammate. In here, we're asking, what's the phone number of Martin? It's a fair enough question, but you can see that the answer comes back and it's pretty muddled. In fact, not only does it have multiple different answers for this and multiple different phone numbers, but actually some of those aren't even valid for formats of phone numbers either. So you can imagine using this, you're probably going to start to lose trust pretty quickly. But let's go on with another example. Let's say we ask something a little bit more cheeky. What's the salary of Martin? Well, once again, we've got this problem where we're actually exposing multiple different results. Which one is it? Which salary is it? However, there's something more sinister here. We shouldn't be answering questions like this. And how did this data even make it into the model in the first place? Is this even our data? Without that attribution link, we can't actually easily trace back. Did it make it up? Or did this actually get this from some data we've augmented from our model? When we look at the next question, it really lacks context. Look at the answer. This is a fair question to ask as a new employee using a copilot to try and speed up your onboarding process. What are our 4 cultural values? Well, I'm sorry, I don't have the context of what company. Should I give you generic cultural values? And you can see that it's not coming back with a response. I would be so happy about coming back and using this copilot again. Finally, once again, a little bit of an issue with context in that we're asking for some pretty interesting questions here. How do I affect the bottom line of the business? As a new employee, can I lower costs? Well, the answers come back, and I'm not going to say they're bad answers. It's pretty amazing, the technology, but they're very generic in that I've got a question. Did you actually look at our own data to help formulate those answers? Or are these kind of just the base model coming through and giving me the same generic answers it's going to give everyone else? So you can kind of start to see this is probably where the journey starts. And this is why it's important that as we're moving forward with these technologies, we have a good foundation in place. One of those key pieces is to always bind each data initiative to some key business metric, because it's all about value at the end of the day. And accelerated value is even better. We want to make data easily discoverable throughout the business. We want people to build these exciting, innovative, and ambitious projects, but we want to do it with high quality, high integrity, easily discoverable data as it proliferates throughout the business. So we need to think differently about how we're going to crack some of these foundational and fundamental steps so we can run fast with today's technology and future technology as well. One of the most important things that companies can be doing right now, right today, is bringing the business and IT together. Now, it turns out that things like data governance, master data, and data quality, these are opportunities that really allow the business to come into the overall supply chain of data. I mean, let's think about it. There's a lot of good technology out there, but yet a lot of it is still implemented and operated in IT, and for very good reasons. They require us to code and data model and all of these things that require engineers. Good. We still need that. But where is the business? Where are the people in the lines of business that know about the actual data itself? They are often the main producers of the data, even the same consumers of the reports and the copilots we build out of IT. But what's so important is we need to bring those people in and have them play a role on that supply chain of data. Give them the chance to, instill their business IP, but most importantly, also be responsible for it as well. Why is this happening? Why is this need accelerated? Well, first of all, there is a push in the market towards federation. And this is really about saying we need to push the responsibility of data out to the lines of business, but we need to provide them with the right tooling that doesn't require them to be technical. We have to realize we're involving those people not because they can write code or SQL or Python or anything like this. It's because they know something about the business, because they work in that line of business every single day. They know the customers, they know the vendors, they can spot issues with data. It's really hard for us to do in IT and engineering. So what is the golden recipe here? Well, first of all, let's start with a good entry point. Microsoft Purview is what we talk about when we talk about data governance in the Microsoft ecosystem. It's a combination of the defensive elements we know about data governance, but a lot of the offensive elements as well, the things that are hitting the top line. So you've got both of those covered. Bottom line, operational risk, operational costs, but then also the revenue adding, margin adding, profit adding elements as well. Now, don't blink too fast, because this is a different tool. This is CluedIn. This is Purview. This is CluedIn. This is Purview. This is CluedIn. At CluedIn, we wanted to provide some real familiarity for those in the ecosystem of Microsoft. And CluedIn is the native Azure solution for MDM and data quality, with over 27 integrations of all of the services that you'll ever need, including Microsoft Purview, including Azure AI Studio, Fabric, and so much more. CluedIn is really tasked about that federation piece. It's about providing the different lines of business with easy tooling to instill their knowledge into the data without requiring them to be technical. And so it's good to know that we have data quality issues and what data we actually have, where it's coming from and where it's going. And very much things like Microsoft Purview help us with that. But we want to make sure we can fix it and resolve it. Now, the good thing is CluedIn is built on the shoulders of giants. In that if we look on the left-hand side here, these are all the elements that CluedIn is actually, the platform is built on top of. And this means it scales nice and it's secure and it's private and built on those good backbones of Microsoft services. And there is a shim of AI through the whole stack. And this is really focused at being able to accelerate some of the somewhat complex tasks when we're asking non-technical people to solve sometimes what needs technical people to solve. CluedIn does this bridge with its use of AI and Copilot. On the right-hand side, we support all your input and output systems as well, the entire Fabric stack, Azure AI Studio, and we'll see some of that in a moment soon. So what does this all look like? Well, let's take you through that use case. It would be logical that if I'm a large business and I bring on a lot of employees every year, I would love the opportunity to be able to onboard them quicker and better and smoother, and I believe our employees would find that easier as well. Let's start here. This is a great place to start because really anything, any data initiative we start should be tied to some business metric. That's why the new data products concept in Purview is always a good place to start with the inception of your ideas, with the intention to commercialize this, to get it out into the business so people can consume it and start using it and even building their own data products off it. There is one complexity here, and I hope you've spotted it. Now, it turns out these are the raw assets that we're going to feed into our custom HR onboarding copilot, but there's a problem. And I've probably drastically simplified the problem compared to some companies out there that usually have a bigger problem than this. It turns out my employees are scattered across 4 files here. The second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. And they all look the same, and there's no beautiful employee ID that I can use to stitch this all together. And this is what I fed into that original copilot. So you can't blame it for then bringing back 4 phone numbers for Martin. This is why it happened. So we have to go through this process of cleaning and harmonizing that data so we feed beautiful golden records into that downstream use case. Now, of course, Purview has us covered for the defensive elements. I can understand where the data is coming from, I can understand where the data is going, and I can understand the journey that it went through. CluedIn also has to be a good citizen in that all the things we do in it, we automatically write that lineage back to Microsoft Purview as well. Purview is that end-to-end data estate, and CluedIn plays its role in making sure it's a good citizen there. Now, the good news is we're involving the business, the non-technical teams. There is a automated sync that happens between Purview and CluedIn with data products. So we don't have to ask IT to set up data pipelines for us to move the data from its original source, found in Purview, over to CluedIn. That's an automated process that happens between CluedIn and Purview. Once again, speeds the process up. We don't have to join long IT queues. Now, the data, we're looking at a record resolution. So whereas Purview provides us that metadata level, great. We need to dive down into the actual records to see how we're going to fix these issues. And there are lots of issues. Just alone on these first 10 records, we can see people are being very creative about their job title. And we can also see all types of common issues like the age. It's entered in all different types of ways. This is the kind of thing we do not want to be able to drive into a large language model. This has caused some of those issues. Most importantly, when we look up a Martin or a Lorraine, we don't want 4 Lorraines. We want 1. And this is including what we call a golden record. We can drive into each record and see that full audit log of what data came from what system in one single place. We can also visually see what the system did to stitch those records together. So at any point, if we want to understand and unravel what happened to the data along the way, we now have this at a record level, even with history as well. Data has evolved over time with the full who did what, when, where, why. And we even get data quality metrics scored down to the record level. This is all written back automatically to Microsoft Purview so it can be that end-to-end state of trust. Now, if this looks familiar, we're building processes in CluedIn around being able to approve changes and maybe facilitate escalation of changes. But also for operational reasons, we might want to push our beautiful clean data to Dynamics, to customer insights. We might want to push it to the Power Platform. And this is all supported natively within the CluedIn platform, the platform of Power Automate embedded directly in. So you get to leverage all of those beautiful hundreds of connectors and have a familiar environment for setting up processes. This is just a small subset of the lineage that CluedIn generates for one single asset that comes through the platform and out the other end. bad quality in, good quality data out. Here, we show what rules have been activated, we show what records have been deduplicated, we show what cleaning and automated DQ mechanisms have been run, and this is all available in real time, automatically done for you back in Purview. But what about the engineers? What about the Fabric people? What about the people in Azure Data Factory? What's in it for them? Because this is really about the harmony between the business and IT. Well, let's start off by saying CluedIn supports every single piece of the Microsoft Fabric stack, including OneLake as well. Whether it's being able to trigger data quality, real-time detection in data activator, or real-time intelligence, where it's getting clean data to the engineering team to build notebooks for reporting or for machine learning tasks, we have native connectors to all of these elements, including, on top of this, direct ability to mount beautiful, clean data into Azure AI Studio for our beautiful, clean HR onboarding, Copilot, adding support for Azure Databricks, and many, many, many more. You're comfortable in the Azure ecosystem. Even for the engineers, we have an SDK which allows you to query your beautiful, clean data and work on it directly from Spark. And this is from any Spark engine you can think of, including Microsoft Fabric as well. So we've talked about putting some establishing pieces into the fray. What does the results look like when we put clean data into this large language model Copilot? Well, let's take those same 4 control questions that we had before. What's Martin's phone number? This looks nicer. One single phone number. Happy to call that phone number. Have the trust to know that's probably the right thing. And I have the full lineage that'll trace me back why we chose that as the number for the golden record of Martin. Let's take a look at that next sinister question. What about the salary? Well, 2 things have happened. Number 1, it's clearly been given a system context that says don't answer questions around this. But more importantly, the data has been blocked before it even made its way in. This is using a combination of the Purview automated sensitivity classification, but also all the masking and PII detection that's available, including as well. Now, let's ask about those 4 cultural values. Those are the 4 cultural values. Now, it's been able to get this from the employee handbooks we've uploaded, things like PDF documents and so forth. This is something I get much more trust in. This makes me feel like this is using our data to be able to augment the base model itself. And finally, through attribution, we can see exactly what files it's getting these particular recommendations around hitting the bottom line and cost saving. Now, this is a Copilot I can start to use to believe in. Now, the thing is, I'm not only getting a good large language model from this. What I'm getting is all of these other fundamental elements around trust in utilizing it. This is what we need to be able to get these large language models into production use cases. Things like visual lineage, full audit trail of what happened to the data down to a record resolution across any record that we want. Attribution, where the answers come from, not to mention beautiful, clean, enriched, harmonized data, all backed by a powerful workflow engine, which allows you to have the most simple or complex of workflow processes to accept what data is being able to go out and proliferate throughout the business. So with this in mind, you can start to paint the picture of all of this metadata that we're building up along the way of the simple journey of moving data from systems through MDM and data governance out to our end use cases. We can start to lay all this metadata over all of our Copilot responses. Now, this is a Copilot response I can trust. I have direct links not only to the objects that it's referring to, but it also is telling me along the way who owned the data responsible for augmenting that answer. And this is all about being able to use not only these large language models in production, but being able to build that trust with the end users as well. So excited to be here at Microsoft Ignite with everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. You can check out CluedIn. The first 10,000 records are completely on us to solve any type of business domain challenge in MDM and data quality. Enjoy.